Just a little more clarification. I'd rather you best describe who's Marc Ranger. Can you just tell people out there who is Marc Ranger? What is your business all about?
Yeah, I mean, the short story is I'm a businessman, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a financial leader. As a businessman, my core business is doing strategy and business development, as was mentioned, primarily for individuals who are running businesses in the financial field, so doing financial management and consulting type businesses. What that really entails is helping businesses maximize their value so they can think more like a CEO, understand their pricing strategy, their growth strategy, their client experience, but also what they actually do, so how they can leverage that to run a sustainable business that actually works. I mean, any entrepreneur or business owner, they want a business that works, and so that's how you have your operational house in order, how you scale your business, how you market your business. And so my business development and strategic consulting is all around helping them do that, but it's all based in financial management and money management, and then ancillary individuals and industries who I also might consult for. As an entrepreneur, I've started businesses, and now I have a new venture, moneymotivation.com, that we can talk about more later. And as a financial leader, issues around money management, I'm often asked to speak around motivational, financial matters, but also business development and entrepreneur matters in that right. So that's me.
Okay, that's great. And what types of companies have you worked with and continue to work with?
Yeah, so the primary businesses that I work with right now are financial firms. So these are businesses that are set up as independent financial firms to work with retail and business owner clients to provide money management for them. In addition to that, I've consulted for some sports companies, for some entertainment and music companies as well. So it's been across the board, but again, primarily those individuals and firms that are working in financial management.
Okay. So I don't know if this gives an obvious answer, but what industry or industries are pulling in the most revenue? Like, what market should any aspiring entrepreneur be looking into?
That's an interesting question. I would say that I've seen a lot of action in digital marketing because, with social media and the various things that are going in that direction, I think there's a high demand for businesses that are in digital type marketing. So I think definitely there's some juice there. The IT field is going to continue to be popular, so definitely IT. The financial field, which I'm very familiar with, anything in finance and accounting, the demand is continuing to increase there, and that actually has some of the highest profit margins that you can actually attain. I also think an interesting one, and this is from working with business owners, staffing services. So there are a lot of businesses that are looking to outsource staffing because they don't want staffing in-house. They don't want to build the infrastructure or management around that. So companies that are able to build staffing sources that entrepreneurs can outsource staffing to, I've seen that become a hot one. And I think there's a lot of money going there. The last one that is big and very competitive is health. I think anything in the health industry is going to continue to be popular. You got to find your niche, though, because it's so competitive. But if you find the right niche in that field, it's a lot of money flowing in that direction.
That's great. I wanted to ask too within that question too. You said finance; it was a lucrative business. Now, is there anything specific in finance? Like is there any specific, like maybe like a subsidiary? I don't know,
Yeah.
a subculture.
Yeah, I would say the three that probably would be the most interesting to people. Anything around the business management, which is really the accounting field. Those fields typically have really high margins. Anything around the actual money management. So if you're an actual financial advisor or stockbroker or money manager where you're managing actual funds and investments, definitely high revenue, high margin opportunities there. And then the third I'd say is in the investment banking world. There's tons of opportunity there, and people know a lot about that just from media and news. But there's a lot of money to be made, in investment banking for those who want to be in those worlds, either as an analyst or on the sales side. I mean, there's a lot of juice there as well.
Okay. Um, so I've been hearing a lot of debate on the 401k, 403b plans, like how these plans are like hurting people more than they're helping people acquire wealth. Like, what are your thoughts on that, as well as thoughts on the stock market?
So, I mean, I don't think 401ks or 403bs hurt people. I think that anytime you invest, it's all about diversification. You got to be diversified. And the issue with 401ks or 403bs is it's a tax issue, because the money is being tax deferred until some point in the future. So at some point, all the money you build up in there is going to be severely taxed at whatever the tax rate is. So I think that issue that's being brought up and it's sensationalized is, well, if tax rates will be higher in the future and all your money is in a 401k, you're going to be, taxed half of that money, and now half of your wealth is gone, which is true. But that doesn't mean it's a bad vehicle, because you can defer taxes today. So I think it's about diversification. You have your money there as well as other places, and you can diversify your tax situation. So I think there's some benefit to that. In terms of the stock market, I mean, look, the stock market, in terms of my wealth and most people's wealth in this country, well, let me say it this way. People get wealthy and make money in three ways in this country: the stock market, real estate, and owning a business. That's how they do it. And the common denominator in those three things is equity. Mm-hmm. So the stock market is all about equity. It's all about how you own and have an ownership stake in companies that you participate in that growth or loss over time. And if you pick the right companies and the right investments with things you understand that have good growth rates and good demand and high margins and cash, you can make money with the stock market. You can do those things. And I'm not talking about the everyday guy or business owner trying to day trade. I mean, because that's a business within itself. You need to be an entrepreneur that knows how to do that. But I'm talking about making smart investments with what you earn so you can keep what you make, build wealth over time. So from that standpoint, I think it's solid. And the stock market, it's going to continue to have high potential. It is, from a return standpoint, it outperforms real estate over any given period that you might see. So that's my opinion. I mean, I think that, if you're going to be wealthy, stock market, real estate, and owning a business, you got to be in those games.
So what would a typical person's portfolio be? Like, what would the ratio, what would one be investing in? Like, what are some things that one should be having in their portfolio?
I mean, that varies person to person. What I always say, time is your biggest asset whenever you invest in money in the stock market, because the more time that you have, the younger you are, the more aggressive you can be. So if you're going to be aggressive, the thing that I always encourage is invest in things that you understand. Invest in companies you understand, companies you buy, companies that you understand the market. You understand there may be a future demand and you believe that there's growth. And if you believe that and you understand what they do and they have solid cash, it's a good company to invest in. But, when you're younger, you be more aggressive. You primarily invest in stocks. When you start to get older, you might put a mix of bonds in there. But as far as I'm concerned, if you're going to invest in the stock market, be aggressive. If you're young, invest in companies you understand and go forward.
Okay. All right. So I switched it up again, but well, actually, what I want to ask? What gave you the passion to get into the area of finance?
Well, for me, it was pretty straightforward. It was three things. I had a mission. I wanted to make some money. I mean, I was very clear about that. I wanted to participate in a lifestyle. I wanted to take care of my family. I wanted to retire my parents. And I didn't come from a background that taught money principles. So I wanted to take advantage of that and actually build wealth and make some money. And I knew an industry, to the point earlier that I mentioned about different industries that have revenue and margins, the financial industry was one that could give you that. Secondly, I wanted to be a successful business person and a businessman. And so jumping into the financial industry as a businessman and doing various things there, I knew could help me achieve a certain level of success. And then third, and most importantly, I wanted to help people. I wanted to create change. I wanted to have an impact on people. And for a lot of people, their finances and their money is one of the most critical pieces in their life that they're trying to really understand. So if you can help people have an impact on that and actually build some wealth, not only live a lifestyle while they're here, but leave to a future generation, especially in minority communities, that was impactful for me. So that was my mission: make some money, be successful, create change. This gave me an opportunity to do it, and I jumped in.
That's great. Do you think a college degree is needed to become successful in business? Like, why or why not?
No, I don't. I don't think it. I mean, I definitely encourage it. I come from an educated family, not a rich family, but an educated family. And I also went on and got education. I got a bachelor's degree in business. I got a master's degree in business with a focus in entrepreneurship and finance. So I'm a proponent of it, but I do not suggest that it is necessary.
Okay.
When you look at success, I mean, or intelligence, let's say, there's book smarts, there's IQ, and then there's street smarts, for lack of a better term. So the book smarts is going to come through. You're going to school, you're going to college, you're getting the book smarts, you're understanding it. And that's important because it gives you a reference for where to go to understand things and how to connect the dots. And I think there's a lot of value in that. IQ is just what it is, whether you're born with it or I don't know the science behind it, but some people are just naturally a little bit more intelligent than others when you look at a specific IQ test or other. And then you got street smarts. And when I say street smarts, that's really what I mean is experience. I mean, those who have a certain level of experience, they understand the game, they know how to play the game. And in my opinion, in business, the street smarts is more important than the book and the IQ. You give me somebody with some street smarts and some experience and is willing to work hard, they're in a better position, I think, over time to be successful. And so you can have good street smarts and experience if you use it right, even if you don't have an education, and be highly successful.
Okay. We're in this like new millennial of entrepreneurship. Like, yeah, be your own boss, you know, F the 9 to 5. Like, we don't need that anymore. You know, I don't need to be living for somebody else's dream. Like, I want to ask, I want people to know, like, what are the ingredients to make an entrepreneur, to make a good, like a successful entrepreneur? Like, what does that person need to be a good one?
That's a great question. I would identify, how can I case this? I would identify 4 traits, I would say, that I think if somebody's going to be a superstar, entrepreneur, or business person, or business leader, there are 4 traits that come to mind, and this is how I filter anybody that I'm going to hire or anybody that I'm considering if somebody's asking me for a recommendation or whatever. There are 4 traits I would say to be a superstar. Number 1 is resilience. You have to have extreme resilience and a strength of character and courage, because you're going to get knocked down, you're going to get stuff thrown at you, you're going to have bad times, highs and lows. And if you don't have the resilience to get through those things, you'll get knocked down, you'll get knocked back. And it takes a certain grit, so to speak. And that's number 1. You got to have that resilience and grit and courage to get past those times. That's key. Secondly, I would say is communication skills. But let me caveat that. I don't just mean like you and I being able to talk. I mean communication skills as in I can influence you to do something. So you need to be able to influence people. And if you have the ability to communicate in a way that builds relationships, you understand the dynamic of human behavior, and you can influence, you can be highly successful. Number 3, you need to be coachable and adaptable, meaning whatever industry you're in, there's a tremendous amount to learn. And if you're stuck in your ways and not willing to really learn the game, you're not going to be successful. So you got to be coachable and willing to, even though you got a very strong ego and resilience, be able to understand how to be coachable and pliable enough to learn the game so that you can be successful, and also so you can adapt, because your cheese is going to get moved all the time. You know, especially with technology, things change so fast. If you can't adapt and be coachable and pliable, it's tough. So you got to be able to adapt and roll with the punches. And then the last thing I'd say is, as a 4th trait, is you need to have a very unique work ethic. Like your work ethic needs to be, you need to outwork everybody is the point I'm trying to make, because there are no overnight successes. It does not exist. An overnight success does not exist. Overnight success comes from somebody that has every single day been hustling, putting the time in, putting the work in, and have that unique work ethic. If you can have those 4 traits, all right, that resilience, that ability to influence, be coachable and adaptable, and have a work like hell ethic, I think you can be a superstar in entrepreneurship, business, the whole 9.
Speaking of superstars, somebody is asking about music and how I wanted to say how much do you think connected is the terms entrepreneurship and music?
I think they're directly connected. I think that anybody in music is an entrepreneur, because if you don't think like an entrepreneur and you're in the music game, that's such a competitive, cutthroat, grind, then you're not going to make it. So, and that's what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And those exact same traits I just walked through, if you're a musician or you're trying to be in that industry, and I know musicians out here, I've worked with musicians, it's tough. You're not going to make it. So absolutely, I think you need to think like an entrepreneur if you're in the music game, and you need to constantly be making moves to brand yourself in a way that will set yourself apart. And we can talk more about that. But yeah, absolutely. I think it's highly connected.
Right. Hope you guys are all listening out there. We got Marc Ranger here, live on Periscope with Tony Moze, educator and rhyming book reviewer. I'm loving this finance talk because this is something new. Me being, I'm of course phenotypically, physically, I know my race is African.
Yeah.
My mother's from Sudan, so I'm African anyway. So I'm African. As a matter of fact, I'm African American.
Right.
My mom's from Sudan. Right. Right. So I identify with that culture, of course, the African American and also the African, but then also my father's Dominican. So there's the Latino aspect. So I'm in the truest sense of encompassing of all minority. But I really am intrigued and fascinated of this whole new idea of finance because I never knew about that. And I think, to be honest with you, growing up where the population was predominantly black, that wasn't talked about much in the neighborhood, let alone the house.
Right.
So this is real interesting, and I feel some people on here, whether they're teenagers or they're minority or they're just coming from an impoverished situation, I feel like this is great awareness for them, just to at least put a seed in their head,
Right.
But I was gonna say, if I had to meet with Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, and if you guys don't know who Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger are, they're billionaires and they're They invest money. They own a company called Berkshire Hathaway, and they're like debt free. Like they have way more assets than liabilities. Like Warren Buffett is the man. He actually is the one who he's coached Jay-Z in acquiring his wealth, and that's the reason why Jay-Z's net worth is so high. I think he's, besides I think Russell Simmons and a couple others, he's about at least $500 million net worth. I think I last research before including Beyonce. So just even him alone. So it makes sense, like to really get your ear out into things like this every so often, because it just plants little seeds. So I wanted to ask a question, Mark. If I were to meet with Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger or other multi-billionaires, like what are the most important questions you think I should be asking them?
I think being successful, when I was just talking earlier about some of those traits I think it takes to be successful, I think that's a similar question you would ask anybody that is successful. In other words, what are the habits, Mr. Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger, that you've adopted in your life that has made you successful? Trying to understand the habits that they've adopted or the personality traits they've adopted. I think that's a key question. I think asking what mistakes have they made that they would do differently in their life, because through history and people, learning from other people's mistakes is a way that you can get ahead. And so trying to understand what mistakes they made, what books they've read, I think is a key question, because, books, to your platform, understanding any key books that have been influential to them could be key. I'd also, I would ask them what people influenced them, what people in their life influenced them, and how did that work? How did that happen, and why? I think those are key things to really understand some of the profile of successful people. And if I was in the room, I would ask those questions.
Okay. And you get a lot of hearts there. Periscope people are just hearting this all up. They're like, man, we're loving this. People are digging it. It's awesome. I'm glad. Thank you.
Big up to the Periscope.
Books. In your earlier years, like, what is a book? Like, what was like that first book that really planted a seed in your head? Like, what inspired you?
Man, it's tough because there's so many great books, as you know, Tony. I mean, there's so much out there. But I would say the three come to mind if I'm just thinking about business, I'm thinking about entrepreneurship, I'm thinking about being successful. I mean, the classic Think and Grow Rich, you can't leave out. I mean, that one is a classic that definitely is there. I think How to Win Friends and Influence People was a key one for me. By Dale Carnegie, that one really changed the way I thought about a lot of things in terms of business and relationships and that type of thing. And then the third one I would say is The E-Myth by Michael Porter. The E-Myth, that actually completely changed my perspective in terms of how to think about business. And it got me starting to think about running my own business, that I could actually run my own business. That book was very powerful to me, The E-Myth.
Wow, you know what? I feel like if I had the chance of grabbing, you've been recommending it to me 30 million times. Here is the book. I want people to also check it out. It's called this one right here, right?
That's it.
The E-Myth Revisited. Yep. The E-Myth Revisited. And you said it tells people, I mean, like, I get these books. I'm so glad that paperback books are not that much on Amazon, people.
Yep.
They're actually not that much. You don't have to be wealthy to get these books. There's actually really affordable books. But I think after talking to you, I know that this is in my queue. After finishing some of my rhyming book reviews and reading a couple other ones, I know that this one, because it seems like across the board, everybody loves this book.
It should be standard reading for any entrepreneur, anybody in business school, anybody thinking about going into business. That should be the standard read.
Wow. So it's like this for anybody who wants to be an entrepreneur, their staple should be.
You gotta have. Gotta have.
Wow. So thinking of Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, like who are some of your mentors? Who were some of your mentors? Like who helped you mold you into who you are today, and who do you still look up to now?
Yeah, it's interesting, and out of respect as well as because it's true. My number one mentor, my ongoing mentor, and my consistent mentor has been my father. My father, without a doubt, has been the most influential figure in my life in terms of decisions that I made. And I'm fortunate because where I grew up, none of my friends have their father in their life. None of them. And I was lucky and fortunate to have that. So he ongoing has been the number one influence, the guy that I go to, critical situations, critical decisions, when I'm down, trying to stay motivated, whatever the case may be, because we're human beings and it happens to the best of us.
Right.
He's been number one. And I think it's important because even just being happy, I think understanding and appreciating people who are close to you, but also having a mentor that you can count on consistently is key. Now, yes, I've had other mentors ongoing and evolving throughout my career, and we'll continue to have those. I think it's key to have them, but out of respect as well as what's real, he's been number one.
Okay. I know I may have asked a question that could perhaps sound repetitive, but what do you think about the music? What do you think about? I'm looking at hip hop right now because I've seen hip hop. It has transformed. It has, it's transformed. It has done a lot of things. And that could be up to philosophizing on many people's parts. Because, there's been a lot of debate between what's good hip hop, what's bad hip hop. I mean, I guess the question I had was in terms of the music game, like, what could you tell me about the business industry revolving around that? Like, what makes an artist in this new millennial successful?
Yeah. So, this is my opinion. And like I said, I've worked with musicians, and I know a lot of businessmen in the music industry. And what's interesting, there are two things that seem to stand out to me, and particularly we talk about hip hop. In many ways, hip hop has trended to start to lose what I call its soul. And what I mean by that is there's a core base that hip hop was always grounded in. And it wasn't commercial, and it wasn't about trying to please anybody. It was really about providing a voice. And I feel like that's the soul of hip hop. And any artist that we revere, there's a voice that artist has that is very unique. It represents something either through their talent, skill, and or the message and platform they're trying to get across. And so I think the first thing is, musicians who can capture that and actually keep that as a part of what they do as a hip hop artist and bring that soul and that platform and put themselves into what they do. I think that makes them stand out. And the second thing is branding, meaning I don't think enough hip hop artists or artists in general pay enough attention to their branding, meaning this. Yes, they have a name. I get it. You have your name and that'll be, part of your brand the whole nine. But I mean, people don't remember you. They remember your reputation. See? And so meaning what do you stand for, or what do you strongly not stand for in your music and in what you do, in the type of music that you do? That's a part of your brand. Or, what is it that you're trying to really get across and promote in the movement you're trying to build around the music that you create? So that's what I mean when I say if you can focus on your brand and what you want your reputation to be, that's what people will remember more than anything else. And that's what people want to follow. That's what people get behind. And that's how I think you can pick up a following in such a competitive industry where it does take a lot of grassroots in this day and time to be able to really pick it up and get the deal, get the label to recognize you the whole nine. So, if you can keep that soul in the music and what that is, and then brand yourself and what you stand for and build that reputation, I think you can set yourself apart.
It's nice. Reputation, Ed's Bookshelf. Thank you very much for coming on to Periscope. Um, so, yeah, of course, I have a few questions
Yeah.
within that, but like hip hop, or even musicians in general, how important is engagement on their part, like the musician's part, the artist's part, in regards to social media and everything within and out of social media?
Yeah, I mean, with a musician or any other business, I think if you're not on social media, you're making a huge mistake. Social media will overtake, in my opinion, print, TV, advertisement, all the other stuff. I think the majority of businesses in the future will communicate and connect with the public through social media. It also, in my opinion, is a way that you can leverage yourself very quickly to develop a following that you otherwise could not do 10 years ago. You, through social media, can leverage and build something that you control and you actually own, through social media, and can, at the click of a button, communicate with people about what your reputation is, about what you stand for, about those things. So, yeah, I absolutely think it has to all be connected as a part of your brand, and consistent across the platforms, and consistent across, the way you market yourself, and you can catch a lot of attention. I think it's key.
That's great. I want to ask you this. People want to know who are you feeling these days? Like, are there any artists that you like these days in hip hop, or even anything outside? I mean, like any modern day artists that you're feeling?
You know who my number one right now is? Kendrick Lamar.
Nice.
I think that dude is amazing. And To Pimp a Butterfly last year, if that album was not, if that album, you didn't listen to that album and it didn't change your life, something's wrong. That's how I feel about that album. And it wasn't a commercial album. That's true. Hip hop. Listening to that album, that album was incredible. Anything he puts out, I'm behind it. He has that soul of hip hop. He has a brand that is very, reputation that I connect with. And so Kendrick Lamar, without a doubt, man, he right now, he's who I gravitate to. I think he can carry the torch.
Nice. Yeah. I was just ecstatic. I was jumping for joy. I jumped out of my chair when I saw Kendrick win that award.
Yeah.
When he wore the Grammys, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah, and when I saw that, I was like, "Wow!" He performed and also won the award. I was like, when I still have Nas in the back of my head saying hip hop is dead, but when I saw him win that award, I was like, hip hop still lives, man. Granted, I still listen. I'm getting into new hip hop nowadays. I'm not trying to discriminate, but I still love what what I know, and that's the essence, what you say, the true soul of hip hop, and I think Kendrick still carries that,
Yeah. He does. He carries a lot of that spirit of what you're talking about, which I appreciate. Because my all-time is Tupac, and that's just me. But I think Kendrick carries a lot of that. You know what I mean, in terms of where it is, and that's a whole nother debate if we get into that. But yeah, Kendrick is the man.
Kendrick's the man. Yeah, I like J. Cole too, and a couple others, but in terms of the people who are big out right now, there's only like a few, and that's really good nevertheless, because it's good that they're still bumping out mainstream on the mainstream level, getting in more people's ears. Okay, so I see your success, but many others would find it difficult, especially blacks and Latinos. What ounce of insight or motivation could you provide to minorities in terms of success or a better lifestyle?
A lot of the things I mentioned earlier about some of the key traits I think that you want to adopt, I think are big, and I think your personality profile and how because all those things that I mentioned earlier, I think you can develop in terms of resilience and grit. You can actually develop that, in terms of your work ethic, you can develop that. Learning how to influence people, you can develop that. Being coachable, that's just about how you adapt and how you do that. So I think all of those things are key, and you can learn, a lot from being able to develop those habits. But I'd also say that, if I had to give a piece of advice tied to minorities and how we think, I would say, don't be mediocre, meaning that a lot of times we tend to fall into just this general mediocre bucket, and whether it be self-hate or whether it be not coming from a family or circumstance that you've seen it before, or just not thinking you're good enough, we fall into this mediocre kind of, waters that I think is very detrimental, versus saying, look, whatever I'm going to do, whatever it is, I'm going to be a musician, I'm going to be a hip hop artist, I'm going to support or manage musicians, or I'm going to be in finance, or I'm going to do whatever I do, that you do it so well that no man living, no man dead no man yet to be born could do it any better. And understand that mediocrity is unthinkable. So I'd say, it's about excellence and pursuing for the sake of excellence as a big piece. And then the second piece I'd say is don't give up, because we face a lot of obstacles. I mean, you face obstacles in general, and being a minority, you're going to face obstacles that other people don't. Mm-hmm. And having that resilience to not give up no matter what, because, I think back to, some of my lowest points. I spoke to a group of students yesterday at Cal State University Northridge, and they were asking me some of these similar questions. And one of them asked me, what was your lowest point, that you can remember? And I remember I was writing a journal when I was coming up and trying to grind. And I remember, and in this journal, it was my lowest point. I was dead broke. I couldn't buy something to eat. I couldn't pay my bills. My credit was shot. I was trying to take like a car speaker down to the pawn shop to pawn it just to put some gas in my car, and they wouldn't even take the speaker because they had enough speakers. And I didn't know what to do. You know what I mean? I just was at a loss, and it was a decision time. It was either I could just quit, not try to continue to build this financial practice, go do something else safe and figure it out later, or I had to answer the question, do I feel like what I'm doing right now will get me to where I want to be in life? And if the answer to that question was yes, then it's willing to go through whatever you got to go through to get there. And that's a question or filter you can use as a part of, advice. I say, whatever you're doing, even though times get hard, if you thoroughly believe that will get you to where you want to be in life, then it's worth it to go through whatever you got to go through to get there. Just keep grinding. Don't be mediocre. Put the work in, and, it'll happen. And it's worth it. It's worth it.
I want to ask first, I want people to know, what is your brand about? What's this Make Rain movement?
So Make Rain, it's a couple of things. So the Make Rain piece, and then it's tied to the money motivation. We talked about branding earlier, and Make Rain has just been a part of a brand that I've established. And essentially, in business, or rather I should say, let me go back even further. In the Native American community, there was always this individual who was known to have magical powers, let's say, and that person could bring the rain to feed the crops and help the community thrive. And this person was called the Rainmaker, right? We call it Rainmaker. So in business or entrepreneurship, the rain is money. So the individual who can bring in the most money, the individual who can drive the most revenue, be most successful, that's a rainmaker. In your family or personal relationships, rain is meaningful, deep connections and meaningful relationships in terms of your family and what you do. In your personal development, is you being your best self. So Make Rain is back to excellence and not being mediocre, is a standard of excellence where you are playing at the top of your game and making rain in your life. Whether that's money, whether that's personal relationships, personal growth, but Make Rain is all about it. And when it comes to business and entrepreneurship, it's you playing at the top and being successful. So that is a brand that I use, throughout a lot of things I do, but it's tied to this money motivation concept, which is my new venture that's being built out. And essentially the concept there is I believe that everybody should live a life of autonomy and freedom. I really believe that. And in order to do that, you need money in your life. You need success in your life, because we live in a capitalistic society. And if you want a certain lifestyle and if you want certain autonomy and freedom, you have to have the resources to do it. So the Money Motivation platform is designed to give high-end content, products, consulting, and resources to help entrepreneurs, help business leaders make money, be successful, and really create change in their life. So it's all tied together with Make Rain as a tagline, but it's really about helping people find their edge, because life is a game of inches, and it's all about trying to find your edge. And if you find that edge, you'll be successful.
That's great. When it comes to making very important business decisions of any sort, whether it's hiring, firing, investing, outsourcing, anything within that, what are your thoughts on making gut decisions? What are your thoughts, on relying on your gut?
Yeah, I think your gut is that universal voice speaking to you that is a real voice. I think you have to trust your gut. I think you have to listen to your gut. But I also think you have to take calculated risks. And what I mean is use your gut, but use numbers behind your gut, because the numbers don't lie. And any decision you make, there's typically going to be some type of data or some type of numbers or something that will give you at least a baseline to figure out directionally where things are going or how things actually stand, some data. And then from that, because you'll never have 100% of information, you go with your gut and run. And as far as I'm concerned, it's better to make a decision even if you're wrong because at least you can course correct and make some change, but at least you're running down a path versus doing nothing, which is what a lot of people do, and they sit there and life goes on and years pass and they're still in the same spot. So I think you got to trust your gut, but you back it up with with numbers to make calculated risk.
That's great. And how can they find you? This last question this is Marc Ranger, but where can they find you? What's your, where can they contact you and all that?
Yeah, you can. Well, on Instagram it's Marc_Ranger, so MARC_Ranger, RANGER on Instagram, and that's Money Motivation. There's also moneymotivation.com, which is in development. You can also reach me by email at markranger@moneymotivation.com, and it's Marc Ranger on Twitter as well, but the primary presence is on Instagram.
Okay, and that's MARC Ranger.
That's right, MARC_Ranger, RANGER.